So remember, it's personal financial management. All right. Great. So, ladies and gentlemen, when we talk of personal financial management, basically personal financial management, which is popularly known as personal finance, is the practice of managing one's financial resources and making informed decisions regarding money matters to achieve financial goals and maintain financial well-being. If you ask me, I would have added the word financial and mental well-being. If you mismanage your finances, mentally, you will really be affected. It involves various aspects such as budgeting. You must have a budget, saving, investing, debt management, retirement planning, and risk management. So anytime we talk about personal financial management, budgeting is key. And the budgeting, you'll be able to create and maintain a budget where you track your income, expenses, savings, and making sure that expenses align with your financial goals. Not just waking up left, right, and center. Aura calls you, you say, hey, forward march, let's go and drink your entire salary. No. I must have a vision. I must have a plan. I would want, in this case here, to own a university in the next 5 years, a virtual university. So I need a lot of financial resources. So all my expenditures, my expenses must be well aligned with my financial goals. Saving and investment, setting aside money for short-term and long-term goals, such as emergency funds, education, home ownership, or retirement. Investing, of course, is more futuristic. It's more long-term. It involves putting money into various investment vehicles like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or real estate to grow wealth over time. Now, there is this bad notion, ladies and gentlemen, where everybody, like I had a friend of mine, and this is a story I've given you severally. A friend of mine, upon retirement, was given about 16 million, 15 to 16 million. Then this guy, those old days, 15 million could give you a very good apartment. He went and took all these 15 million and invested in an apartment. Unfortunately, this was a time when they were talking about riparian lands, somewhere along 𝐬𝐩𝐞𝐜𝐢𝐚𝐥. All right, near 𝐬𝐻𝐢𝐚𝐥 barracks, riparian lands. So after this guy had completed doing whatever he had done finishing, then in this case here, one Friday afternoon, they normally come towards Friday to avoid court orders. Friday afternoon, we had that particular kind of a tractor which comes like this, and it demolished the entire. So even if we are talking of investment, again, you must be wise. In investment, actually, if you ask me, I own some apartment somewhere, I have some government bonds. I will tell you without cheating you guys that government bonds are much better than these houses. Government bonds give a higher return than these buildings that you see outside here. Not unless I have a building that I'm using for commercial purpose, maybe I have a business there. But if it's for rental income, you will get, for example, somebody has built a house of say 20, no, 20 is quite little. Nowadays it should be about 30 million. Now this 30 million, the 30 million house, how much will he be getting on a monthly basis? You'll be surprised. He could be getting something like 150,000 to 200,000. So remember, in this case here, we still have to charge management fees because you can't do a property without having a manager there, either through agency or direct management. And this really comes at a heavy cost, like 6 to 10%. All right? Because without management, you know, most tenants don't want to pay rent willingly. They would want to be kind of coerced, right? So you need strong management. So you'll have to incur management fees. There is tax on this. So by the time this, and of course, an occupancy also comes in some months, depending on where your house is. So you may be surprised at the end of each month, you could be getting something like, for example, ikienda sana kwa hii nyumba, right? Of course, with variability, we could be getting something like a net of 120,000 per month. out of this. So meaning, ladies and gentlemen, that a whole year, you will get how much here? About 1.44 million, 1.4 million a whole year as your rental income. So then it will take you how many years here to recover? What is the payback period? And remember here, you haven't factored in things like what? You haven't factored in things like maintenance, repairs and maintenance, and a lot of headaches. At times you get landlords outside here physically chasing after a tenant physically, or even some landlords in this case here who go to their own apartment blocks, in this case here, to do cleaning on their own because they can't even afford now this. All right. And then you want to tell me that this is passive income? I will never. The only apartment that I have is enough. I will never ever think about what here, putting up a nice apartment for purpose of renting. Unless I have a business model that I would want to really use there. If, for example, I took this 30 million, and invested in a government infrastructure bond, can somebody give me what is 16.8% of 30 million? Can somebody give me this 30 million times 16.8%? Remember, infrastructure bonds don't have any taxes. Yes. Yes, great. So 30 million times 16.8%. Somebody give me something here. It's okay, yes. If you have a tenant, I'm so sure. Yeah. So in this case here, you can see every year I'll be getting like 5 million. Every year I'll be getting like 5 million. Every year. And remember, government bonds are very nice. I worked with some Indian guy who gave me a secret about these government bonds. You know, government bonds, they give you interest twice a year. They give you interest in June and December if it's a January bond, right? So then what you need to do, like this 30 million, you don't have to invest in it or invest it just once a year, no. You can stagger it. You can take like 10 million, invest 10 million in January. You take another 10 million, invest another 10 million, for example, March. So that you stagger these amounts over your lifetime in a way that every month you'll be getting some coupon. Every month you'll be getting some money. Every month you'll be getting some money. If you invest in a government bond, you can never ever go wrong. The only disadvantage that government bonds have, they lack what we call compound interest effect. This thing of interest being plowed back, right, on your behalf by government is not there when you take government bonds like your means of what you invest. And that's why you have to be very careful. When you get like this 2.5 million in June, and then of course you have done your own budget, you know that you don't need the 2.5 fully in full, then you need to set aside like 2 million again, buy more government bonds, right? So in short, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm talking about here, if you want financial freedom, you must always think about what your diversification. You must diversify a lot. I'm not saying that houses are bad, but please let them not be your only long-term investment. Don't make them to be your only long-term investment. You're going to die a very frustrated man. And again, how do you make rental properties your only long-term investment when you can see that the government is taking that direction of housing? I don't know whether it will be realized, but the truth is, as a strategic investor, always get aligned with government policies. Actually, if I'm to do some houses today, I would consider doing houses under the low-cost investment plans, and then I sell them. Not for rental, because like if you put up a very good apartment, in the next 20, 30 years, your apartment could be like what year? A slum. But the thing is, the returns, rental income returns are too low. They're too low. When you compare this to government bonds, etc., they are too low. Is there somebody who has an apartment here? Somebody who has a high-rise building who can confirm that what I'm saying is truthful? Anybody who can confirm that really this rental income is not that much passive? Great questions there. And I would also want to address this question that I saw somebody asking there, the concept of what tier circles. Yeah, like myself, I'm a member of Mwasibu Circle, one of the best what tier managed circles, managed by accountants in this country. Great circle. Now, I've succeeded heavily by working with Mwasibu. But I knew, and I saw most of my friends really crying. The problem with the SACCO, any SACCO, it comes in this case here, of course, when you want to borrow, and when your friends want to borrow from the SACCO, you must guarantee them. You must guarantee them. What happens on guarantorship if that person fails to honor their obligation? They fail to pay back the loan. What happens? You lose your share. You lose your shares. You see, Simdi is saying, rental, Kisirani. I'm almost selling mine. It's not easy. It's not easy, right? Is there anybody in this case here who has ever guaranteed someone in their SACCO and then they ended up losing their shares because of the default? Anybody in this room here who has ever, anybody in this room here who has ever guaranteed a friend? When you were guaranteeing them, they were close friends. They used to buy you tea. You can see Yvonne saying very painful. I like what 𝐬𝐻𝐞𝐬 is saying there. You see, like what Samuel is saying, he spent 1.5 million putting up a house only to collect 15,000 monthly. And I like what 𝐬𝐻𝐞𝐬 is also saying that not unless I'm putting up this apartment for my kids, of which I doubt whether my kids would even like those houses. If I'm putting my kids through good education, etc., I expect them to be able to fend on their own, etc. So I'm looking at these guys who have been chopped their shares. Very painful. I'm a victim of losing share about 70,000, lost back in 2019. By the time you break even, 30. So, ladies and gentlemen, normally for the SACCO, please be very aggressive with your SACCOs. So long as you get a good SACCO that you can see its future, be very aggressive with your SACCO. Always be sending deposits there, always on a monthly basis. Build up your borrowing capacity. But when it comes to borrowing, what I normally do, I give my SACCO collateral. So I must develop my collateral base. I must have a vehicle, isn't it? When I want a loan, I'll go to Mwasibu, like to tell Mwasibu, please charge the logbook. I would need, in this case here, for example, land. And for land, especially if you are building, like right now, if you are building, if you go to Mwasibu SACCO will be able to give you like 12 times over your share capital, right? So these SACCOs are very, very good sources of what year loans. But please don't go to them having in mind this concept of what year guarantorship. No. Like myself, I was able to build my own capacity to borrow huge sums from Mwasibu was through even their lands. Like I remember there is this time they had some land in Runda and they were selling these lands. I mean, at those times, I think Mwasibu had not really also known what they were doing in terms of real estate. So we went there, bought very good, and I was able to sell that land. Immediately I got a title. That's how I was able to raise my capital to build etc, etc, etc. So whenever you hear them having nice places, like they are selling a few parcels of land, is it in Kamulu or wherever? Oh, that's very far from me, right? So you follow them. You buy something, of course, they'll tell you put in like 50,000 and then you keep on building up. At the end of the day, you get your title like that. But please, you have to also protect your deposits, your shares. Because if you're not careful, you can have seen people in this case here going even to Mwasibu, they're crying. And you know, when you are guaranteeing, the SACCO also tells you that when you guarantee is as good as you borrowed personally. All right. But again, but I really don't advocate. Even if I'm working for government full time, you know, things can happen. Things can happen, and you get yourself in this case you're losing your capital. And again, what I tell my friends when I'm giving this kind of a talk in a SACCO, when you are signing forms for your friends as guarantor, always ensure that you put a maximum limit right there. That I'm only guaranteeing this guy up to 100 what year, 100,000. You must indicate the limit. It's very important because you get somebody guaranteeing you for 50,000, and then yourself, when you guarantee them, you give them a blanket, just open guarantorship. When they default, you lose 1 million, 2 million, just like that. You must be bright. You must be bright. Loan interest between banks and SACCOs, of course, SACCOs are much cheaper. SACCOs are much cheaper, much cheaper. You can't compare the two. Even their loan processing costs are very, very low, But also remember, unlike banks, these guys have got what here you are deposit. So you have to do that trade-off. But to me, I love SACCOs 100%. 100%. I would rather take a SACCO loan than taking a bank because of even their flexibility. Like during COVID, we had loans with Mwasibu. The only thing we did actually was just to call them, tell them that you guys can see what is happening. As other guys were being given like 3 months by banks, Mwasibu was able to give us a moratorium of about 6 months. And even after 6 months, again, we went and negotiated, we pushed, they were even writing to us, you guys come, we talk. So they're able to listen. But go and borrow from some banks like there is, I don't want to mention names because I'm going to upload this video on YouTube. Some women bank, you borrow from them. If in this case here, ladies and gentlemen, you're supposed to pay by 6th, and the 6th comes, you're not able to pay, this following day they send you a reminder, first reminder, and the reminders are not monthly. 7 days down the line, a second reminder. By 3rd week, these guys, they have already brought to auctioneers on you without even, they don't give you time to breathe, to think. All right. Okay, so then you'll allow me, for security purposes, yes. On the amount side. Moffat is looking for a guarantor. Mwasibu Sacco. Moffat, you're my student. I really, really love you as my student. But please, on issues to do with guarantorship, please don't put me into trouble. Don't put me into trouble. That is my old retirement plan, part of my retirement plans. Don't put me into trouble. I will not be able to guarantee you. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's gonna siasa management level. Great. So in this case here, we must budget. We must always think about saving and investment. Then we have the concept of debt management. Managing and minimizing debt by making timely payments. Like for banks, when you have a mortgage, if a mortgage falls on the 6th, please ensure that you are paying your mortgages on the 6th. Because should you delay, I'm telling you, those penalties and fines, they really pile up. Understanding interest rates and developing strategies to pay off debts effectively. Retirement plan is part of this personal financial management. Preparing for retirement by setting aside funds through retirement accounts, individual retirement accounts, and understanding options like social security, pensions, or annuities. Ladies and gentlemen, like for example, for those of you who are in Britain, as a private pension scheme, when you retire, these guys here will give you 2 options. Do you want, for example, to take the whole lump sum with you? Or in this case here, would you want annuities? Which option do you think is better? Should you work with the whole lump sum being given to you, or would you want a situation where they pay you on a monthly basis? Which option would you rather? I would always rather get my whole amount and give it to government through bonds. When I take this whole amount to government through bonds, ladies and gentlemen, I'll end up earning more. And of course, in terms of security, I will be quite guaranteed. I've gotten questions, people telling me that, you dear government looks shaky. The question is, have they ever defaulted on any treasury bills? Have they ever defaulted on any government bonds? No, there's no government which would want to do that because these guys are borrowing every Thursday. Every Thursday they would want to borrow locally. Government can never dare to do what here to default on the internal debt. They would rather in this case here make arrangements with external debt providers, but not internal debt. So nobody should fear. Government is secure. So we must first of all agree on that. A lump sum. Again, if you are not keen, I've seen so many guys going for this monthly thing. When you go for the monthly thing and then you die, you'll be told that your next of kin will be paid, for example, for how many months? Is it 6? What if, for example, you retire at 60 and then you die at 63? So you lose the entire thing. But if, ladies and gentlemen, in this case, I take the whole amount and invest it in government bonds there, then I'll be able to mention my next of kin. And every 6 months, they'll be getting money. All right? When I get, in this case, if it's 20 million, of course, I expect, if you're a serious person, when you retire, like with this private private insurance companies, I expect you to be having like 20 million. For example, for those of you who are in employment, and be very honest with me, these talks we give them to people in a very practical way. How much is your retirement statement reading from Britain, from CIC? Somebody who has some retirement, how much have you contributed so far? How much have you contributed so far? Guys who are in some retirement pension, don't tell me NSSF. NSSF, of course, you contribute almost nothing, and they even disturb you when you are getting that money. You know, we are contributing like, how much do they contribute in NSF? Very little amounts. These guys don't want to give me figures. I don't know why they are fearing. I don't know why they are failing to give me figures. 0, this is my first hearing, we shall overcome. Minimum of 50,000. Government boards here, minimum of 50,000. Thank you very much. I'll be able to address that. Zamara 140K, okay, great. Thank you very much, Samuel. Now, the other guys are not responding. You don't have any arrangement with any pension schemes. Guys, talk to me. You don't have any arrangement with private pension schemes. Please, you are the accountants. I would want to besiege you on your behalf. And of course, your generations to come. It's important that you go and address these issues with your employers. Tell employers it's important for you and the other employees to have a private pension scheme. It's very important. At least Bernard has something there. Yep. Isaiah, thank you very much. Good employers like where I work, I will, they will always take something like, is it 15%? I'm not so sure. No, 10% from the employee, and then they contribute 10%. The employer contributes 10%. Employer contributes 10%, like that. So 10%, 10%. How secure are these insurance companies? Good question. Trust you me. Like currently we are doing something for CIC. These guys are not guys who can fall tomorrow. These guys are very, very stable. In terms of asset base, they are very, very stable. They could be having their own internal issues, but again, remember, like pensions that they run there, they are quite separate. They just as individual, they are highly regulated, so they cannot collapse really. They cannot collapse really. I forgot one thing. There is something that I forgot. You are safe, yes. Employer pension schemes. I'm getting very good questions. Like LAP fund is very good, isn't it? LAP fund is very good. But please, as your employer puts in like a minimum, please go tomorrow and stretch this amount. Tomorrow, go and stretch this percent. Say you'll be contributing how much? 15%. So that when you start bending, trust you me, especially for husbands who are here. And this is why I like, whenever I pass through these pension towers, whenever I pass through these CBK pension towers, I normally laugh because I normally see some inner things, but most of you can't see that. Even the architect who built this thing cannot see. Or if he is seeing it, he must have hidden it. But you know how these twin towers are bending. It doesn't matter how currently you are holding hands with your wife. If you're a man, trust you me, you need to be very serious with your pension. Be very serious with your pension, because this will be you when you are 70 years bending this way, and your wife will bend that way. In most cases, your wife will side with children. I don't know whether you guys are following that topic, which is so hot outside here. They'll side with children, and most likely because you have really put in, you are the tractor, you've really put in quite a lot in terms of effort. You've been able to educate these children very well. Chances are they will go to America with their mother. And then now here you'll be left at 70, 80 years like 𝐬𝐩𝐞𝐜𝐢𝐚. You can't even afford Panadol. And then now you start waking up every day, you are going to your local area town, borrowing from young people, looking at, it's sad. It's a sad situation. Okay, so no, 𝐬𝐸𝐞𝐜𝐚 is not poor. I'm just using him as an example because he was in the news the other day. You know, when you get like your wife, kind of, I don't know whether it's true, divorcing you when you're about 8 years, there must be a problem, isn't it? That's why I used this example. Okay, so I'm getting very good suggestions here that now, Mwalimu, you need to pause a little bit in this topic. We pause a little bit with this topic so the students can get to digest. So as I pause, it's very important. I would want to really give you this talk for free, even in the future. These are talk I normally give without charging. It's like a CSR on my from me, because I have friends outside here. Again, somebody tells me that there are some parents who are investing in their children, thinking that their children are their pension schemes. No. The generation we are putting up today, the children we have today, ladies and gentlemen, their interests are very different. Those are the guys, trust you me, even the moment you hit like 70, 80, they may not even want to stay with you. They may easily plan to take you to an old man's home. So as you invest in them, give them the best education it is, but don't ever count on them as your pension assets. That will be so wrong of you. That will be so wrong of you. Britam is very safe. I'm also a member of Britam. Very safe. Very safe. Very safe. Very safe. Great. So we shall be coming back to this. When you are diversifying, something that I've also seen helping a lot of people, when you diversify, always think of this long-term investment in the form of trees. These trees, like I have a friend of mine who went ahead. This guy must be a genius in Kitale. This guy went and planted eucalyptus trees in his entire land of about 25 acres. He was a very bright man. This man, one day, he was given a check by Kenya Power. Those days, Kenya Power used to write checks, 90 million, when they harvested his poles, 90 million. So then I kept on asking myself, honestly, those guys in this case here who are left there in Kitale planting maize in January, they harvest like another year again, they're planting maize. Up to when will you be able to get like even 10 million Kenya shillings from maize? Like this person, Mien, 5K eucalyptus trees, if you leave them. Actually, nowadays, what I do, anytime I get a kid, although I have only 2, I need to work very hard. What I do, I get like an acre and plant like 1,000 trees for them. 1,000 trees. These 1,000 trees, by the time this guy hits 15 years, akifika 15 years ya kwenda 14, 15, akienda secondary school na university, ukiwa na miti 1,000 for them, hii miti 15 years utauza moja more than 10k. Moja utauza because ni ile miti kubwa 15 years. Unaona? Utakuwa na pesa, hii ni pesa ngapi? Hii 10 million. 10 million, which place can this young man study? Hata akitaka kwenda America. Akitaka kwenda wapi? And remember, trees, there is no way you will tell me that we shall have a glut. No. Trees, the demand will always be there. Kawera says that if she becomes rich, she will be a pension plan for the parents. Trust you me, you won't manage. At that age, like for example, when these guys hit 80 years, these guys have so many problems. Maybe the best thing you should do right now, if for example, they're in civil service, ensure that they take what we call the post-retirement medical cover. Because at 80, I'm telling you, 80, this parent will be spending like 50,000 shillings per month. Akienda surgery tu kidogo namna hiyo unasikia 1 million imeenda. You can't manage. The best thing to do as a parent, work out on your own pension scheme so you don't become liabilities to your kids. So ladies and gentlemen, I would want to take a break, not a break, but actually to call this thing to a cropper to stop the session. It has been an interesting one. It has been so good hosting you this afternoon, and I believe as I do this CSR, you guys will be able to choose RCM Online College for yourself and your kids, because you can see the kind of knowledge that I'm giving you around here is not knowledge that you can easily get outside there, right? So please work with us. If you would want to do CPA, whichever level with us for block release, we are charging currently 2,000. What you need to do is to call us today, 0793 555 000. So I'm looking forward to teaching you. Otherwise, thank you very much. Be blessed. Bye-bye. minimum, if we are talking of the normal government bonds, the minimum amount you need to buy is 50,000. If it's an infrastructure bond that will be able to give you interest without any taxes, you need 100,000. 100,000. But the best thing for you to do is to walk tomorrow to any branch of Central Bank of Kenya. Please don't be fearing CBK. It's a normal bank just like any other bank. You simply walk there. You'll even be surprised. Of course, you'll be able to pass via some GSU. So those ones you don't scare you. But once you are inside there, those guys will even give you a cup of coffee. They are so nice. Better than any other bank that I've been to. And then, of course, with an ID card, they'll be able to give you forms you fill there, etc, etc. You open that account and then you start transacting with government. So I'll be able to address all this. Please, if you would want to talk to me more, you know, I don't teach theory papers because I can see they are really taking a lot of energy, right? They're not easy. Having stood here for the last 1.5 hours, I would want to bow down and take a break. And of course, I would expect to get a call from you guys regarding joining RCM Online College. Otherwise, thank you very much. I sign off like this. Bye-bye.